The Apollo program began in 1961 under President John F. Kennedy, who proposed a national goal of landing man on the moon within the decade. Ultimately, 12 astronauts explored the surface of the moon over the course of the Apollo program, the last being in 1972. We will discuss 8 of the Apollo missions, beginning with Apollo 1. Apollo 1 was intended to be the first manned mission of the Apollo program, with astronauts Gus Grissom, Edward White, and Roger Chaffee. Due to lethal designs and construction flaws, a fatal fire erupted during the pre-launch test and claimed the lives of the astronauts while destroying the spacecraft. This tragic incident delayed the manned phase of the Apollo program by 20 months. Fast forward now to 1969 when Apollo 11 was launched. This mission fulfilled President Kennedy's goal of landing man on the moon by the end of the decade. Apollo 11 did encounter a problem with delayed data being transmitted by the guidance computer, which, in an effort to ensure a safe landing, forced Neil Armstrong to manually pilot the lunar module while Buzz Aldrin provided navigational data. Shortly after, Armstrong was quoted saying, "Houston, the Eagle has landed." Astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon, while Command Module pilot Michael Collins remained in orbit above. The Apollo 11 crew completed their primary mission objective, which was to perform a manned lunar landing and return safely to Earth. Four months after Apollo 11's success, Apollo 12 was ready to launch, manned with astronauts Charles Conrad, Richard Gordon, and Alan Bean. Apollo 12 was not without problems. Shortly after launch, it was struck by lightning, first at 36.5 seconds after launch and then again at 52 seconds. This caused all 3 fuel cells to go offline, and nearly every warning light had turned on. Apollo 12 could have been another aborted mission, but fortunately, thanks to quick troubleshooting from the flight control room and good memory from Alan Bean, the mission was saved with the use of a backup power switch. Apollo 12 went on to complete its mission objectives, which included visiting the Surveyor 3 robotic spacecraft and removing certain parts for analysis, and also deploying an Apollo Lunar Surface Experiment package, the LSAP. Apollo 13 has been termed a successful failure due to a mid-mission oxygen tank rupture which damaged the spacecraft and forced the lunar landing to be aborted. Fortunately, astronauts James Lovell, John Swigert, and Fred Hayes all returned safely to Earth. During a radio transmission, Swigert was quoted saying, "Houston, we've had a problem," which has become widely quoted in popular culture. Launching in January 31, 1971, Apollo 14 was the third mission to land on the moon, with astronauts Alan Shepard, Stuart Roosa, and Edgar Mitchell. Apollo 14 used the modularized equipment transporter to carry equipment and samples as the astronauts traversed across the lunar surface on foot. Apollo 14 also employed the first use of a color TV camera on the lunar surface. Additionally, Alan Shepard hit 2 golf balls on the moon, while Edgar Mitchell used a lunar scoop handle as a javelin, together forming the first Lunar Olympics. After 4 days of flight, Apollo 15 astronauts David Scott and James Irwin finally landed on the moon, while Alfred Worden orbited above. The crew began their primary scientific objectives, which included exploring the Hadley-Apennine region, executing lunar surface scientific experiments, and analyzing and evaluating new Apollo equipment, and conducting lunar orbital experiments with photographic tasks. Apollo 15 introduced the use of the Lunar Roving Vehicle, or LRV, which could carry 2 astronauts plus tools and equipment. The crew also deployed a sub-satellite in lunar orbit. Upon re-entry to Earth, one of the 3 parachutes failed to open, which caused a 2.8 mile/hour faster descent velocity. Fortunately, the 3rd parachute was only added for redundancy. Apollo 16 was the second to last mission in the program and was also the second to use a lunar roving vehicle on the lunar surface. The performance of the vehicle has been recognized in the Guinness Book of World Records as the fastest speed traveled on the lunar surface at 11 miles per hour. In total, the crew covered a distance of 16.59 miles. Additionally, the mission initiated the first use of the Moon as an astronomical observatory, while also engineering experiments on the lunar surface which would continue to transmit data back to Earth even after the crew departed. Astronauts John Young, Thomas Mattingly, and Charles Duke spent a total of 265 hours and 51 minutes on the Apollo 16 mission, with 71 hours and 2 minutes of lunar surface exploration. Additionally, 95.8 kilograms of moon rocks were returned to Earth. The last and final Apollo mission was completed by astronauts Eugene Cernan, Ronald Evans, and for the first time, geologist Harrison Schmitt. The crew collected a record total of 109 pounds of rocks during their 3 moonwalks. They also explored roughly 21 miles through the Taurus Littrow Valley, in which they also discovered orange-colored soil. Additionally, the crew also engineered experiments on the lunar surface for long-term transmission of data to Earth. Ultimately, the crew left the most comprehensive set of instruments on the lunar surface after a total stay of 75 hours. We hope that you've enjoyed the NASA Lunar Science Institute's Apollo program presentation. Be sure to visit our website at lunarscience.nasa.gov.